Welcome back for a brand new episode of Jori Sports Stories. As always, I'm your host Jori, and yes, it's been a while. Life has been lifing, but we're back, and on this episode, we play catch up for a little bit as we bounce between the NFL and NBA. Plus, we're back with Jori's jacked up tears and more. This is a jam-packed episode that you don't want to miss, so tune in, turn your volume up, and let's get it. We kicked this episode off in the NFL discussing the recent news and injuries, talking about where some teams really are, breaking down some of the most latest action, of course, coming from week 11 and 12. Yes, I know this is going out on Sunday, which week 13 is occurring. You'll get my reaction on that on the next episode. But yeah, and there's a lot of the hot seat. Head coaches have been in the hot seat for a minute, and there's been some movement. There has been some firings that we'll be discussing, and there's an addition of Jori's jacked up tears that I don't think anybody will want to miss. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so we're going to start off in the NFL, and I had some pretty big questions. Like, what's the real issues with the Chargers? Even though I'm thinking that it's ownership, front office issues, and coaching. Like, when you think about the Chargers, and I'll get into them in just a second, we know what the issue is. They don't have the right guy and the right quarterback. They have the right quarterback, but they don't have the right guy to coach said quarterback. And for whatever reason, the Spaniels have been incredibly patient, even though they shouldn't have been. They should have fired him after last year. I feel like a few times this year, he could have been left on the tarmac or wherever he was at. If they had lost this game to the Patriots today, I'm thinking he would have been left. Because, like, he's not a good coach. What does he do? That's good. Absolutely nothing. And your defensive head coach, and your defense is like second worst in the league, and it's also the second highest paid in the league. So that's backwards. You're not getting production for the amount of investments that is in there, if we're being completely blunt. And that's because Brandon Staley's defense is not that good of a defense. And then the offense. Yes, there's times Justin Herbert hasn't played very well, and he hasn't looked up to par. And I already know what to expect from Kellen Moore as an offensive coordinator. He's going to try to make the quarterback look good. That's his biggest detriment as well. Case in example, what he's doing with Justin Herbert. Sometimes Herbert can't get out of his own way, if we're being completely honest. So yes, the Chargers have a coaching issue. They do need to get rid of Brandon Staley. We'll get into that in just a second. But my second question and my second little part of the discourse of tonight is, will the Panthers ever be a good franchise to work and play for? And I say free Bryce Young because no. Because when you have an owner like David Tepper is, who's very impatient and impulsive, it's an issue. You're not a football guy. You don't know what you're doing. You're trying to build this team up, but you're meddling in it. You not knowing what you're doing and meddling in it inadvertently is going to make it worse. Now, you rightfully fired Matt Rule after being patient with him. You gave Frank Reich 12 games with Bryce Young, rent a center offensive line, a very young, talented, but young and vulnerable defense, and old beat-up weapons as a receiver, at the receiver position, at any receiving position, and your running back ain't that good. So you give Frank Reich all these old, bad, moldy groceries and expect him to make gumbo with it, and the gumbo that you got is not very good at all. Actually, it's nasty, and you want to fire him for it. You got to give this some time, David Tepper. And with his revolving, he's only been an owner in this league for about 5 years. He's had about 6 different head coaches. You've had about 9 to 10 different starting quarterbacks. You're starting off on the wrong foot. We're going to err on the side of dysfunction here. So, David Tepper's got himself to work, himself to blame for this. And I don't think that the Carolina Panthers are a very attractive job at this point, if we're being completely honest. The third question is, has Buffalo reached their ceiling? And I will definitively answer yes. Because they struggle to beat teams that are elite as well, even though we know they can turn on this switch. But their game versus Philly proved that when their switch is on, they still could be got. And the reason why I say that this team has reached its peak is I'm peeping at Stephon Diggs. I'm peeping at what this defense looks like with the injuries on that defense. I'm peeping at the recklessness of Josh Allen. And I'm like, okay, we know what Josh Allen is at this point. We know what Stephon Diggs is at this point. And we know that he's not happy at all about what's going on. He can put a facade on the sideline all he wants to. We know that he's not happy in Buffalo right now. Because their window, which they could do something in the AFC this year. They have won enough games. But their window is closing or has already closed. And Stephon sees the writing on the wall. Josh Allen is what he is. He's a fantastic talent, but he's a gunslinger quarterback, and he'll throw a boatload of picks as well. So, and when you have an offense that tends to force feed Stephon and use Josh Allen as a wrecking ball, it doesn't tend to go well, if we're being completely honest. And they've been doing a pretty good job of spreading the ball out a little bit more, much detriment of Stephon Diggs, such as he'll be all right. If he's not, then that's just on him. But they've reached their ceiling, and it's about time that we start having these discussions about what's next for them. And are the Broncos really a viable playoff contender? I like to think so. If we're being honest, I like to think so. They've been playing very well. Granted, I have to go back and watch the game today. But as far as the past 2 weeks, they've played very well. Russell Wilson has kept the ball out of danger. We'll go into Bronco land in just a second. Actually, they're the first team I'm going to cover. So you'll get more of my little analysis on the Broncos in just a few seconds. But yes, I feel like if they can keep it up and win some of these important games, they will be in the playoffs. That's a long way from 1-5 and getting 70 hung on them. I'm proud of them. And why the Kansas City Chiefs should be on life alert. That's the next team we're going to talk about. Their wide receiver room looks like ghosts. Looks like Casper. You got Travis Kelce, an old Travis Kelce who has to block for most of the time because the offensive line is not conducive to protecting Patrick Mahomes for the long term. You got Kelce blocking and your receivers dropping passes. The Kansas City Chiefs are on life alert, if we're being completely honest. But that's being said, let's recap some of Week 11, Week 12. We'll get into Week 13 by Saturday. Life has been lifing, but here are my thoughts. The Broncos. Like I just said, their defense has seemed to gather itself. They're very physical. They get the job done. Ask Kareem Jackson about that because he's gotten suspended twice this season. Russell Wilson has played well. They figured out a way to utilize what Russ can still do and stay out of harm's way. And Javonte Williams was back. And they're starting to get the ball out of Russell's hands quicker. That's not necessarily a bad thing when it's conducive to winning football. People want to say that's elementary school football, but if it works, it works. Russ does not want to get hit anymore, if we're being honest. He does not want to get hit anymore. He's 30-something years old. So, of course, we can expect that his play is going to take a small step back. What works for Denver, works for Denver. Period. He can still make a play. Past 2 weeks, he still made those plays. And they've rattled off some quality wins since that slow start. So I like where Denver is. I know they lost the game today, but I think they lost the game today. But yeah, I gotta go back and watch. We'll get my thoughts on that next week. Next, we're gonna talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Offense minus Kelsey, like I said just a few seconds ago, is anemic and not trustworthy. Your receiving room struggles with catching the ball when they're supposed to. They haven't been running the ball very well with Pacheco and others, which limits the offense. The defense is still amongst the best since Mahomes has been there, and they're going to waste it because the offense is what it is. Travis Kelce and a pack of dust, and that is, at this stage, that is not good enough. I'm going to be quite frank. That is not good enough. Pittsburgh Steelers. They are definitely on dysfunction watch, but they are also somehow winning. I don't know how Mike Tomlin does it, but they're also somehow winning. Your offense was very bland, anemic, and archaic under Matt Canada. They've gotten some traction since firing him. I like what in them getting Pat Freiermuth. Yeah, that's how you pronounce that. Pat Freiermuth back does help as well. It helps them a lot. Deontay Johnson, though, and his pouting and his divas ways are a tad bit childish and concerning. Like, you pout in the middle of a play and then you sit there and lie about it. Everybody saw him do that when he fumbled the ball, when the dude fumbled the ball. The only reason they were able to pick that up and run with it like that is because he wasn't blocking. Because he was pouting. And then he wanted to lie about it like you didn't see it. No, you saw it and you walked the other way. Don't sit here and BS people like we don't know what we're looking at. You didn't block. You didn't do your job, and the other team had the ball. Got the ball because of it. So that all of that, I didn't see it and whatnot. I see why Minkah Fitzpatrick wanted to fight you. Because I would have slapped the... Man, I would have made that man's head spin around his shoulders. Like, do you realize this is a team game? It is not I. Just because I drop a ball does not mean the team needs to suffer the consequences. Let's get that through our thick skulls. Deontay. Mike Tomlin has a hot mess on his hands, but he can cover it up because he finds way to win games. Now, they do have some concerns because now Kenny Pickett has been injured. We'll save that for next week. All right. Excuse me. The New Orleans Saints. Bottom line, we'll just get to that. They need a new coaching staff. Your offense is everywhere and slightly confusing. Derek Carr has been very inconsistent, and Dennis Allen is a subpar head coach. Pete Carmichael, I don't know what the heck he's doing up there, but the Saints fans are not happy. They don't do anything in the red zone but kick field goals, which is the reason why they've lost games. Your defense is older and slower. They're struggling to stop the run. They've been surrendering a lot of rush yards. Again, they're not stopping the run. This team has no identity, and it's an issue. Period. Point blank. The New England Patriots. Bill Belichick, I believe, is on his last legs. You're playing musical chairs with your quarterbacks when both aren't playing well. You've thoroughly broken Matt Jones thanks to Belichick and his decision-making by giving him an offensive line, a defensive coordinator and a special teams coach as an offensive coordinator. You broke him. You ruined his confidence. He's done in New England. Period. And thanks to that, a whole chunk of that team is pretty much broken as well. Your defense is playing pretty well as of lately, and they currently have the number 2 pick. But if we're going to be completely honest, Bill needs to go. And if I'm Robert Kraft, after seeing the past 2 years, it's enough. Enough is enough. The team looks tired and up and, quite frankly, a hot mess. And that is on Belichick. They didn't score today. If we're going to, ladies and gentlemen, the Patriots did not score today. More on that next week. New York Jets. My biggest question for the Jets is, why would you even consider playing Aaron Rodgers when he's ready behind that offensive line for him to get hurt again? Why would we do it? Makes no sense. I think it's quite stupid. And quite frankly, it's nonsensical. I would prefer him to sit the rest of the season. The Jets are not going anywhere. Playoffs. If there was a play-in the NFL, the Jets wouldn't make it in. Playoffs? Give us a break. You finally made the decision to go in a different way as far as quarterback is concerned, and the quarterback play has not improved very much. So that was a waste of time. You just could have just left Zach Wilson out there. That offense isn't capable of doing anything worthwhile with the quarterback situation being turnstile, regardless of the talent. Now, I bet going into next season, they will have a quality backup quarterback to Aaron Rodgers. That way they don't have to go through this no more. They keep playing like this. And if they keep playing like the way that they're playing, go ahead and tell Rodgers not even to try to knock the rust off. We will see you in training camp. I mean, I like to think that their offense have been hacking it, but come on. Let's be honest. The Jets are the Jets. And next, we're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins, who, I'm going to put them on blast. They front run. They have a very big tendency to front run. You beat up on bad teams, and you struggle and lose to good teams. Their idea of success is Tua stays upright. That way he can deliver the ball. Otherwise, he'll turn the ball over, and the offense will be stagnant. They also pride themselves on running the football. Stop the run. If you stop the run, get to Tua, you'll give the other team a chance. Your defense has been playing well, but they are suffering some major injuries. Yeah. I don't think the Dolphins will get very far in the playoffs because I feel like they'll make it. But I don't think they're going to get very far. Let's be honest. Let's be real here. Buffalo Bills. Like I said earlier, this team is already peaked. They can play very well and still manage to lose to good elite teams. Your defense is missing major pieces due to injury. Your offense being predicated almost entirely on Josh Allen is a problem. And like I said earlier, Diggs' behavior has been starting to bubble up again. By the time the season ends, it'll be clear that changes need to be made personnel-wise. I don't know what's going on. I know Von Miller got his own situation. That's that. I'm not going to speak on that right now. I will speak on it next week. Actually, next week, tune in. I have a whole new episode of Jori's Timeout Session. It will go through all of that foolishness. All of it. But the Bills are done. They are done. Their window was closed. They've never been able to take the opportunity. I think they've already peaked, and now they are what they are. Excuse me. Carolina Panthers. Frank Reich is gone. What I mean by that, he's been fired. We'll get into head coaches on the hot seat in just a second. The organization as a whole is a mess, ran by David Tepper, impatient Tepper. You're setting Bryce Young up to fail. Old weapons, no. You got offensive linemen who don't even know each other, who play like they haven't seen each other for a day in their lives. You have confusing coaching. You didn't give Reich time to fix or even begin to fix this team. And you're going to give him 2 head coaches, 2 systems in 2 years, which isn't very good. It shows dysfunction. And not just football dysfunction, executive dysfunction. And I know a thing or two about executive dysfunction. Tally the talent that they traded away. DJ Moore, Christian McCaffrey. You'd have decent pieces for Bryce Young. This team is going nowhere but it to the ground and fast. And the reason for that is because they have a meddling owner who has no clue what he's doing. My Titans. And I know we lost the game today, and I know some people got hurt. Let me grieve right now, and I will get you my thoughts on a video tomorrow, or you'll get my thoughts on Saturday. But clearly right now, this team is average at best. Offensive line and dumb penalties have plagued my team all year. Will Levis is playing well despite having 0.5 seconds to throw. Your defense, my defense, is definitely better than how they play sometimes. I am done with Christian Fulton. And the D-line needs to be more consistent, minus Jeffrey and D'Amico and maybe Arden. And I need more linemen in corners. I'm tired of it. I know what my team is. My team is every bit of what our record says we are. Okay? It is what it is. It's not going to be a 1-year fix. I need y'all to understand that and kind of chill out. Atlanta Falcons. You see what happens when we use our weapons here, Arthur Smith? And Ritter still stinks, by the way. I just want to say that. He still stinks. And defense minus Grady is still holding up on their end. They don't play well on the road, though. Even though I know they got one. They squeaked one out against the Jets. But it's the Jets, so whatever. And if they take care of business and limit dumb doofus Desmond Ritter mistakes, they'll be just fine and back into a playoff spot and then get the doors beat off of them. Did I lie? Los Angeles Chargers. And like I said earlier, 2 things are true in this case. Brandon Staley needs to go. Justin Herbert hasn't played very well when they've needed him to. The defense, minus a few plays in a game here and there, is absolutely pathetic and non-existent. And with how much money is involved on defense, that by itself is unacceptable. Second worst defense in the league. Sometimes I don't know what Kellen Moore is doing with Justin Herbert, trying to make him look better than what he is. You don't need to try to make Justin Herbert look great. He's already a great quarterback. You just need to put him in the position to win these football games. You're doing too much. Absolutely doing too much. And then it's like the Chargers have made this thing of where they invent new ways to lose. And it's sickening because it's like, Brandon Staley, take a timeout here where he's not supposed to take a timeout here. 4th and 1, deep in your own territory. You don't get it. Foolishness. You play people when they're not supposed to be playing and you get them hurt. So when you need them, whatnot. Just badly run organizations. And I know that the players are over it. The interception didn't help, and neither did the fumbles. When I'm talking about Austin Eckler and Keenan Allen. You have talent. That's what irks me. That's why when it comes to the Chargers, I'm always going to forever use a battery joke. Because it's like, they're going to charge. It's like they never have all good batteries. And I know that in this situation, like in a circuit, the battery's not good. That's why it's not working. The battery, i.e. Staley, is not doing his job. But you want to be snippy with reporters. We'll get on that in just a second when I get into my head coach hot seat segment. We'll get to that in just a second. Let me talk about the Ravens. Let me finish what I'm talking about. We'll get into that in just a second. But what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to the Chargers season, look at it like a circuit, right? Everybody knows what a circuit is. If you don't, you shouldn't have graduated elementary school. They taught us about circuits in elementary school. You should have been paying attention. But if the battery is not a good battery, or something is not right with the circuit, something is not aligned, or is not put together right, it don't work, right? Now think of the Chargers as a big old circuit with multiple batteries in multiple different directions and stuff like that. And the season is when you flip the switch, right? Season starts, you flip the switch. And it's not working. It hasn't worked in 3 years because there's something going on with one of the batteries in the circuit. Well, what's the battery? Label the battery Staley, Herbert, Moore. 3 batteries. If one of them don't work, the whole system isn't going to work. Bear with me in my analogy here. In my analysis of the Chargers, I've identified the battery in the circuit that's causing the issue. It's that one. It's the one that says Brandon Staley on it. And you know how you identify what battery it is? You test it. And you test it. What's the battery tester? The actual football games. More often than not, Brandon Staley is causing the Chargers to lose football games, not Justin Herbert. So, coming to that conclusion, the dead battery in the Chargers is Brandon Staley, and he needs to go. Now, granted, Justin Herbert's battery is only operating at about 75-80%, which is good enough. We can shave some of these mistakes off. Not completely. Well, we can reform it. We can fix it. We know what Justin Herbert is. Just like we know that Brandon Staley is the guy ding on dead battery in the Chargers, the reason why they can't go nowhere. We know what Justin Herbert is and what he can be. He hasn't played very well. That's why his battery percentage is not at 100%. But we get the point, right? Okay. This team isn't good, and Brandon Staley's on the hot seat. Baltimore Ravens. They do look pretty ding-dang on good right now. Lamar has been playing pretty well, and Zay Flowers is emerging. The defense is legit. Hold on 1 second. But they do tend to blow leads in the fourth quarter, i.e. that whole Raven thing that they do. They haven't stopped that at all. So I don't care what Purple Feather Brain fan you talk to, the Ravens still blow fourth quarter leads for whatever reason. And they do have a top spot in the AFC. However, your schedule's getting stronger, and I need the Ravens to stay healthy. I mean, I don't care what the purple. I don't care what the purple people do. The schedule's getting stronger. If the Ravens want to do something with their season, Lamar has to stay healthy, and they need to keep riding this wave that they're on. I'm tired of hearing about it. Just do it. And they just go do it. And that's what they've been doing. Next, we're going to talk about my analysis on the head coaching hot seat thing. The whole coaching cycles. Fired. We got Frank Reich, who really wasn't given much chance at fixing that team. Tepper, like I said earlier, is notoriously impatient. He was fired 12 games in. He was also fired from the Colts last year about 13 games in. So that's pretty bad luck. And if I were Frank Wright, you don't need to do anything for the rest of your life. You got bought out in Indy, and you're sitting on a nice chunk of change now for over a few years. You have an owner who is setting everybody in the organization up to fail. But I will say that there was no progression week to week. They've always just lost games. Josh McDaniels was fired a few weeks ago. But Josh McDaniels was not a quality head coach like Frank Reich was. Josh McDaniels did not have any business being a head coach in the first place. You lost the locker room fairly quickly into his tenure. Why? Because you turned on Derek Carr. Y'all went and got Devontae Adams because of Derek Carr. And then you turned on Derek Carr and forced him out. You tried to bring the Patriot way. Didn't work. People hated you. It got so bad to the point where they had a meeting and just ripped into you. And you need to listen to these players tell you about yourself. Clearly, you weren't the guy. You're not that guy. You tried to bring the Brady way along with him, and it didn't work. And I'm not calling it the Patriot way anymore. We're going to call it what it is, the Brady way. Next, we got on the way to being fired. Ron Rivera. His specialty is actually backslid, i.e. the defense. He hasn't done much. They haven't found a way to protect Sam Howell yet. And he's also operated a quarterback carousel. Riverboat Ron, his river is about to run dry. Because I guarantee you, because I know what the outcome of the game was today, it is not looking good for him. Brandon Staley. Self-explanatory. I don't think I need to go in with that. Your defense is horrendous. You make bad, aggressive decisions. You find new ways to lose. And you're actively wasting Justin Herbert's prime. You snap off at a reporter for doing their job because you're not doing yours. Like, let's be real with ourselves here. You did all of that talking about don't ask me that question again. You don't have to answer that. You don't have to ask that question again. You did all of that sassy stuff. You snap off at a reporter. They're just doing their jobs. And they wouldn't ask you that if you were doing your job, Mr. Staley. Or if you were doing your job better. Like, let's be real with ourselves. Let's look in the mirror and say we're not doing a very good job here. Matt Eberflus. Now, granted, your defense has improved, but Fields in that confusing offense has not been conducive to winning very much. Fields hasn't shown the development that he needs to in year 2 or 3. No, he's in year 3 or 4. And it's just not working. It's like a hot mess. They need to blow it up. Now, we're going to talk about somebody special. This is called Hotseat, and I don't know the outcome. Belichick. Again, like I said earlier, you ruined Mac Jones with his decision-making, stunting his development and growth as a quarterback. You've made New England a hot mess minus Brady. You haven't drafted well, period. Offensively, they're doing absolutely nothing but playing musical quarterback. You're doing nothing. Like, my Chihuahua could do better than that. I promise you my Chihuahua could get more points than New England's offense. I promise you, her and my lab could. It's pathetic. And what I mean by I don't know the outcome is I don't know if he's going to get fired. I don't know if it's going to be a mutual decision to part ways. And I don't know if it's going to be they're going to try to take the GM and thing away from him. I don't know if he's going to allow that to happen and let him to keep coaching. Well, if they're going to have a GM, they better bring in a quality offensive coordinator. Bill should not get the chance to choose his offensive coordinator. Because I think Bob needs to go too. But another discussion for another day. Now, we got Jori's jacked up tiers. And some of these teams, I think I missed a few. If I did, let me know. Sorry. We got J-Dub's Juggernauts. We got my top at the top, cream of the crop. The Eagles, Niners, the Cow Things, the Jaguars, and the Ravens. I hate putting the Jaguars up there, but it is what it is. They've been playing very well. The Just Can't Miss Them crew, just a step under a juggernaut, but they're pretty impressive as well. The Dolphins, Chiefs, Broncos, Rams, Texans, Raiders, for what they've done after firing McDaniels, and the Steelers. Even though I know it's taking a little bit of turn, but you'll get Week 13 and 14's version of Jacked Up Tiers Saturday. And then we got Jori's Jump Starts, Average. We got the Bengals, Falcons, Saints, Colts, Browns, Packers, Commanders, Vikings, Seahawks, Titans, Bucks. And I feel like there's another team that needs to be on there, but whatever. Then we have our Dungeon Dwellers. Bad teams, like the Giants, Jets, Chargers, Patriots, Cardinals, Panthers, and who else? Yeah, that's it. I can't think about anything else. But if you did like my list, my tiers for Jori's Jacked Up Tiers are always fluid. It's not gonna be, if you're playing very well, I'm gonna reward you with being a Just Can't Miss Them crew or a juggernaut. If you're not playing well, you're gonna be a jump start, and then if you're really just stinking it up, you're gonna be a dungeon dweller. Jump starts are literally for my average teams to below average teams. Dungeon dwellers are the worst of the worst. That's why you hear the names. And if you don't agree with my rankings, you can disagree. Leave a comment. I'm always welcome to read the comments. And keep it cute, because I do clap back. Keep it cute. Keep it classy. Okay? Okay. Next stop, the NBA, where we discuss my Lakers, what's been going on with the Clippers, the Magic, and more surprising headlines and news. I might rant about my Lakers because sometimes I don't like what I'm seeing from them and whatnot, but they've been playing pretty well for the most part. So I'll go easy on them. But regardless, we got a segment planned for you. Let's get into it. And now for our little brief situationship in the NBA. And my big thing that I wanted to talk about is Anthony Davis starting to become a scapegoat. Because I just got some things to really say. Well, first thing, anybody with common sense and with perfectly good brain cells knows that what Anthony Davis really is. So why is he catching so much flack for being what he was since college? He's 12 years into the NBA, and yes, he's a defensive. When he wants it, defensively he's very good, and offensively he has his nights. But if we're gonna be completely honest, if AD doesn't have a monster night, he's still gonna give you a pretty good defensive performance. That's what he's always been, a defensive stud who has hit it offensively every now and again, every so often. Like with the Lakers right now, it seems like he's doing it every other game. But whatever. He's been like this for 12 years. And I understand the argument of LeBron said that he was going to give AD the team and this is AD's team. No. No. Because I knew that's not going to work. AD is not he's a good player. He's a good leader. Like, I believe he's a good leader. But he's not the person who's going to get you 30, 35 every night. No, he's going to get you 30 one night. And third, he's going to get you a dang near triple-double one night. And the next night, he's going to get you 10, 15, and something else. A double-double. And still be pretty effective on the defensive end. AD, there are so many bigger issues that any Lakers fan would know that Anthony Davis is off nights offensively. Like D'Angelo Russell looking goofy on the court. And the injuries. Let's talk about D'Angelo Russell looking goofy on the court. Because why is it that when LeBron James is on the floor, they struggle? And like I said, I'm over D'Lo. I'm over it. Like, and then you have Rui, who has been dealing with a nasal fracture or something like that. Like, something's broke, but he's back. Taurean Prince is right up there with D'Lo with how done I am with him. As far as my nerves are concerned. My biggest problem, like the biggest problem with the Lakers, and it's not Anthony Davis's off nights, is the fact that we struggle with younger athletic teams, but we beat up on who we're supposed to beat up on. And we're inconsistent as a team. So I feel like, and one thing I do feel, and I am going to be a little bit optimistic, is like once everybody gets healthy, once we get some continuity and people get into a rhythm, it'll change. But right now, we're inconsistent, and it's not always Anthony Davis's fault. Anybody who just wants to rip on Anthony Davis because it's hot. Like, it's just foolish. Find something else to talk about. Dissect the Lakers for what the Lakers are, not for what Anthony Davis is not. Like, let's be real. Now, we got the Ben Simmons back injury thing. His whole saga continues. We have another pinched nerve. I think he's... Pinched nerves, I know they are painful. And I don't like to say he's faking the injury, but every year, it's something with Ben Simmons. He actually had to have an epidural to aid in his rehab, and he will be reevaluated within the next 2 weeks. So, but as far as Ben Simmons is concerned, he's been playing well defensively. Him and shooting, it's actually quite comical to even think about asking him to shoot at this point, because it's not going to happen. I want to talk about the Orlando Magic next. They've been playing pretty well. They've been beating quality teams like the Nuggets and company. And they've been looking well as a team. Now, Paolo, however you pronounce that, excuse me, it's 9 o'clock at night. I'm sorry. And Banchero and Cole Anthony, they play very good two-man game. And the team as a whole, they feed off of each other's success, and it's dangerous. They're young and hungry. That's why they've been playing very well, and very consistent. And they play very good defense as well. They're holding a pretty nice spot in the East. My biggest question, can they keep it up though? That's the biggest question with these young teams. You see what Oklahoma City's going through. And I think they still won that game versus Dallas, but the Mavericks went on a 30-0 run versus the Thunder. That's a concern with younger teams, that they don't know how to handle it. The Clippers. Now, I'm just going to be completely honest. Russell Westbrook is a better person than I am. Because if that was me, I'm saying I'm not coming off the bleeping bleep bench, and I've been here. My pride would not let me do that. I'm like, I'm not coming off no wood. Put him on the bench. Let him come off the bench. I've been here. You finagled a way around me, and it was conducive to winning basketball games consistently. But now he come here and throw off the chemistry, and y'all want me to come off the bench? Heck no. He's a better person than me, because then I'm flaming everybody. yeah, I gotta come off the bench. But playoff P is inconsistent, and sometimes he don't show up. He had 8 points in the game. That's a triple single. And then you got Kawhi, who played when he want to play. I'm not doing. You asked me to come off the bench after all of this. Boy, I'm like, y'all want me to come off the bench? And you got Paul George over there, who's selective about how hard he want to play at times. You got Kawhi Leonard, who his knock-need self is an issue in itself. And then you got Mr. Ball Hog James Harden coming in with his no defense playing self. I got to come off the bench? No. It should have been James to come off the bench, not him. But, rant aside, they have been winning games though. Slick. It might be by the hairs of their chin. And James Harden has had those times, those moments to go be the man. But I guess that's the bigger picture. I digress. That's my opinion. And I don't think it's going to be conducive to long-term success right now because, yeah, it's just not. Y'all know the drill. Y'all know the drill. Thank y'all for tuning in to a brand new episode of Jori Sports Stories. As always, I'm your host, Jori, and I hope you guys enjoyed what I've put together for you guys. If you did enjoy it, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you're listening via YouTube. If you're on any podcasting platforms, share the podcast. Let's grow the audience. Let's do all of that. Follow me on social media for more, and check me out next Saturday over on Sports Empire Network or at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, for Hoop Dreams and Touchdown Queens. That's all from me this week. Tune in next week for another edition of Jori Sports Stories and maybe a video. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some videos planned. But yeah, stay tuned. I'll see y'all guys next week.